I found a key in my old jacket to a place I don't remember. So I was cleaning my apartment last weekend, which is something I try to avoid like the plague unless I've run out of clean dishes or I can't see my floor anymore. This time, it was because my landlord sent one of those passive-aggressive emails about annual inspections, and I realized if someone walked in right now, they'd think I was running some kind of archaeological dig site in here. Dust layers, pizza boxes, laundry mountains, the works. Anyway, I was digging through my closet, trying to figure out if half the stuff in there was even mine anymore, when I pulled out this old black jacket I hadn't worn in years. It was heavier than I remembered, kind of stiff with age, and smelled faintly like that mix of mothballs and old cologne. I was about to toss it in the donate pile when I shoved my hand into the pocket and felt something hard and cold. At first, I thought it was some loose change, maybe a lighter or something, but when I pulled it out, I froze. It was a key. Not just any key though, this thing was weird. It was made of brass, heavy enough that it weighed down my palm, and it had these strange etchings along the bow, the part you hold, that looked almost like symbols or runes. Not letters, not numbers, just intricate lines carved deep into the metal. It didn't look like any house key or padlock key I'd ever seen. And here's the part that freaked me out. I didn't remember ever seeing it before. I mean, you'd think if you owned something this unique, you'd remember where it came from, right? But I had nothing. Blank. I turned it over a few times, ran my thumb along the grooves, but the only thing it sparked in me was this weird sense of deja vu, like the kind where your brain is screaming, you've seen this before, but refuses to show you the actual memory. That feeling lodged itself in the back of my head like a splinter. Of course, the first thing I did was call Jared. Now, Jared Collins is my best friend, but he's also the kind of guy who thinks sarcasm is a personality trait. If I ever get murdered, he'll probably crack a joke about the bloodstain pattern before calling 911, but he's also the first person I go to when something's bugging me. So I sent him a picture of the key. Me, found this in my old jacket. You ever seen anything like this? Jared, oh, did you rob an antique shop? Me, no seriously, I don't remember owning this. Jared, yeah, because that looks like the key to Dracula's Airbnb. Classic Jared. A few minutes later, he called me. Dude, he said. You're overthinking this. It's probably some random thing you picked up at a flea market when you were drunk. I don't buy brass keys when I'm drunk, I said. Right, because drunk you have so much self-control. I could practically hear his grin through the phone. I'm serious, I told him. I don't remember this key at all, but it feels, I don't know, familiar. There was a pause. For once, Jared didn't have a joke ready. You mean, like, deja vu? Yeah, exactly like that. He snorted. Well, congrats, Marcus. You've officially unlocked your superpower, the ability to find useless junk that makes you feel weird. I hung up on him after that, but he texted me 3 bat emojis and 1 coffin emoji later that night, just to drive the point home. The thing is, I couldn't shake it. All night, I kept fiddling with the key. I put it on my desk, then on my nightstand, then under my pillow. Don't ask me why. Maybe I thought I'd dreamed something. But when I finally did fall asleep, I woke up with only this hazy image in my head. A hallway lined with old wallpaper, a door at the end of it, and my hand reaching for the knob. But before I could open it, everything blurred and I woke up. I spent most of the next day distracted at work. I'm in IT, so normally my biggest mystery is figuring out how people manage to lock themselves out of their email every other week. But instead of focusing on the help desk tickets, I kept staring at the photo of the key on my phone. That's when Lena noticed. Lena Ortiz is my coworker, and unlike Jared, she actually takes me seriously when I say something weird is happening. She's sharp, curious, the kind of person who remembers random trivia like what year a building was constructed or what ancient civilizations used brass for. You've been staring at your phone for an hour, she said, leaning against my desk. Either you've got a new girlfriend or you've found something weird. It's not a girlfriend, I said. Check this out. I showed her the picture. She raised her eyebrows. That's unusual. Where'd you get it? Old jacket, I said. Any idea what it opens? None. That's the problem. I don't even remember owning it. Lena leaned closer, studying the etchings. Huh, these look like symbols. Maybe decorative, or maybe it's for some old lock. You should look into it. Jared's words were still ringing in my head. Dracula's Airbnb. But Lena's reaction was different. She wasn't mocking me. She was intrigued. You really think it's worth checking out? I asked. Why not? She said with a shrug. Worst case, it's just some old key. Best case, maybe it's a mystery worth solving. That stuck with me. Later that night, I sat in my apartment, turning the key over and over, the lamplight catching on its etched lines. The deja vu was stronger now, like my brain was on the edge of coughing up something it had buried deep. And then, out of nowhere, another flicker of memory. I was a kid, standing in a dimly lit room. I could hear muffled voices, maybe arguing. Someone, maybe me, was crying. And in my small hand was the same brass key, heavy and cold. But before I could piece the rest together, it slipped away, like water through my fingers. I was left sitting there in the quiet of my apartment, the key clenched so tight in my fist it left marks on my skin, wondering if I had just imagined the whole thing, or if I'd stumbled onto something I was never meant to remember. If you read my first post, you already know about the brass key I found in that old jacket. If you didn't, well, long story short, weird, heavy key with strange etchings I don't remember owning, a flicker of deja vu that felt way too real. in the nagging sense that I was supposed to remember something I didn't. And when I say nagging, I mean it got under my skin like an itch I couldn't scratch. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, grab the key off my nightstand, and just sit there staring at it in the dark. Like, maybe if I looked at it long enough, it would give up its secrets. Spoiler, it didn't. But then, one morning, something clicked. Literally. I was walking to the coffee shop near my apartment, half asleep, clutching my usual oversized cup of caffeine, when I noticed a construction fence around this rundown building on the edge of town. You know the type. Cracked windows, faded, no trespassing signs, the kind of place you'd expect to see in an urban exploration video right before everything goes horribly wrong. The thing was, it wasn't just any building. It was a storage facility. Something about it made my stomach lurch, like my body recognized it before my brain did. I slowed down, sipping my coffee and staring at it through the fence. The old sign out front was missing letters, but you could still make out Hale Storage Rentals. Hale, my last name. I damn near choked on my coffee. Now, I'm not gonna lie, my family doesn't exactly have a history of running businesses. My dad was a mechanic, my mom worked part-time at a library, and as far as I know, no one in my family owned a storage place. But there it was, right in front of me, bold as day. And that's when it hit me. What if the key wasn't for a house or a locker or a safe? What if it was for here? I couldn't get the thought out of my head. So, like an idiot, or maybe like someone who's finally realizing he's inside a horror movie, I decided to go back that night. Now, let me just say, breaking into a condemned property is not my idea of fun. My heart was pounding the whole time, and I kept expecting a cop to roll up and ask me why I was standing there, like a creep with a flashlight. But nobody came. The fence was already partly open where kids had clearly been sneaking in, and I slipped through. The air inside smelled like mold, dust, and rust. Basically death for anyone with allergies. My footsteps echoed on the cracked concrete, and my flashlight beam swept across rows and rows of padlocked doors. I pulled the brass key out of my pocket. My hands were shaking. Okay, Marcus, I told myself. This is stupid. It's just an old key. There's no way it's going to fit any of these click. The first lock I tried, the key slid in like it was made for it. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. No way. I turned it slowly and the padlock opened with a sharp snap that echoed through the empty facility. My hand was slick with sweat as I pulled the door up. The metal screeched like a dying animal and the sound bounced off the walls. Inside, the beam of my flashlight caught on cardboard boxes stacked neatly in the corner. And here's the part that sent a chill down my spine. Every box was labeled in black marker, Marcus Hale. My name over and over. I stood there for a good minute, just staring, my brain trying to reboot. Finally, I knelt down and opened the nearest box. The first thing I saw was a stack of photographs. I picked one up and my heart skipped. It was me. At least I think it was. I looked younger, maybe early 20s, standing with a group of people I didn't recognize. One of them was a tall guy with a buzz cut. Another was a girl with long dark hair. Everyone looked serious, like they were posing for a yearbook photo nobody actually wanted to take. I flipped through more photos. Me sitting at a table covered in papers. Me standing next to the girl again. Me in front of some kind of house I didn't recognize. It was me. No question. But I had no memory of any of it. My stomach churned. The next box had notebooks inside. Dozens of them. I pulled one out, opened it, and froze again. It was my handwriting. But not my handwriting at the same time. The words were jagged, rushed, like I'd written them in a hurry. The circle is closing in. I don't know who I can trust anymore. If you're reading this, Marcus, remember, Noah Drayton is not your friend. Ivy Clark must be protected at all costs. I slammed the notebook shut so fast, dust flew everywhere. Noah Drayton? Ivy Clark. I didn't know anyone by those names. Not at work. Not from school, not even distant cousins. But my chest tightened at the names, like some buried part of me did recognize them. I sat there on the cold floor, surrounded by boxes filled with pieces of my life I didn't remember living. And then I saw it. A small black tape recorder sitting on top of one of the boxes. There was a piece of masking tape on it, with 2 words written in my handwriting. Do not forget. My hand shook as I pressed play. At first, there was just static. Then a voice came through. My voice. Marcus, it said, if you're hearing this, it means a key found its way back to you. Good. That means the failsafe worked. I nearly dropped the recorder. It was me. 100%, but older, heavier, slower, like me after a few more years of smoking and stress. You won't remember now, the voice continued. That was the point. You asked me, yourself, to make you forget. But there are things you can't run from forever. Noah Drayton knows too much. Ivy Clark. If she's still alive, she's the only one who can help you. But they'll try to stop you from finding her. Static again then. Do not forget what we did. Do not forget who you are. The tape clicked off. I sat there in the dark, heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Because here's the thing. I had no idea who Noah Drayton or Ivy Clark were. No idea what the hell the circle meant. But somewhere, deep inside, I felt that same damn flicker of recognition. Like my brain was screaming, you know them. You know this. You've been here before. And I didn't know which possibility scared me more. That the tape was lying. Or that it was telling the truth. If you've been following my post, then you know about the brass key, the condemned storage facility, and the boxes with my name written all over them. You know I found the notebooks, the photos, and, most disturbing of all, that tape recorder with my own voice on it telling me I'd chosen to forget. I probably should have stopped there. I mean, any sane person would have closed that unit, put the key back in their drawer, and tried really hard to forget they ever found it. But I couldn't. Not after hearing myself say those words. Do not forget who you are. So I went back. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe the boxes would have vanished, or the whole storage place would have been sealed up overnight. But no, everything was exactly the same. The smell of mold, the flickering fluorescent light in the hallway, the rows of forgotten units. My unit ain't. Still labeled with my name, still waiting. I sat cross-legged on the cold floor and picked up the recorder again. I don't know why I hadn't listened longer the first time. Maybe I was too freaked out. Maybe I didn't want to know, but that night I pressed play again. After the static, my voice came through. Marcus, if you've made it this far, it means you didn't stop. I knew you wouldn't. You never could. That sent a chill down my spine. You're probably confused. Good. That means the erasure worked. But there are holes, fractures. They'll start to bleed through. The circle never liked that part. Too messy, too unpredictable, but it was the only way. Halden insisted. I paused the tape, my heart hammering. Halden. Professor Halden. The name meant nothing. And yet, again, I had that flicker, like a light bulb buzzing, almost turning on. I pressed play again. You'll start to notice them. The older me continued. Faces you almost recognize. Places that feel familiar but wrong. That's the bleed through. Don't ignore it. It's your mind trying to stitch itself back together. You'll want to run from it. Don't. There was a long crackle of static before the voice returned, softer this time. You asked me to do this because you couldn't live with what we did. But memory is stubborn. It always finds a way back. The circle will try to stop you. They're probably already watching. Then silence. The tape clicked off. I sat there frozen, my breath fogging in the beam of my flashlight. The circle. Halden. Faces I almost recognized, watching me. I wanted to laugh honestly, because it sounded insane, like something from one of those late-night conspiracy forums Jared always joked about. But the thing was, it didn't feel insane. It felt true. That weekend, I brought Lena into it. Now, Lena is the kind of person who thrives on puzzles. She's into genealogy, true crime, local history. Basically, if there's a rabbit hole, she'll dive headfirst. I figured if anyone could help me dig into Halden and the circle, it would be her. We met at a cafe and I laid everything out. The key, the storage unit, the boxes, the tape. I even showed her one of the notebooks I'd swiped. She flipped through it, her brow furrowing deeper with every page. This is your handwriting? Yeah, it looks like mine at least, but I don't remember writing any of it. The notebook was full of disjointed entries. Some pages were detailed descriptions of symbols, diagrams, even what looked like rituals. Others were short, frantic scribbles. Losing time again, hours missing, don't know where I've been. Halden says the gaps are normal. Trust the process. The circle meets on Friday. Must bring Ivy. And over, one phrase kept appearing in the margins. Do not forget. Lena closed the notebook slowly. Marcus, this is heavy, like really heavy. Tell me about it. No, I mean, she looked up at me. If this is real, if you actually wrote this, it sounds like you were part of some kind of group, maybe a cult. I laughed nervously. You think I joined a cult and just forgot? She didn't laugh back. You'd be surprised how often people get pulled into things like this, especially if memory gaps are involved. Did you say there was a Professor Halden? I nodded. She pulled out her laptop right there at the cafe and started searching. Let's see. Professor Halden, local area, research, psychology, neuroscience. She typed furiously, scanning results. And then she stopped. Wait, this could be him? She turned the screen toward me. An old newspaper article popped up. Controversial psychologist Dr. Elias Halden ends research amid ethical concerns. The article was dated nearly 15 years ago. I skimmed it. Halden had been a professor at a nearby university, specializing in experimental memory research. According to the article, his work was shut down after accusations of unethical practices. Test subjects reported missing time, disorientation, and induced memory loss. My blood went cold. Missing time, memory loss, the exact things written in my notebooks. Holy shit, I whispered. Lena nodded. Marcus, this is starting to add up. Of course, when I told Jared about all this, he had the opposite reaction. We were at his place, watching a game, and I laid it all out. The notebooks, the tape, Halden, the circle. When I finished, he just stared at me for a long moment before finally saying, "Dude, you're losing it." I'm not, I snapped. Marcus, listen to yourself. Secret cults? Memory erasure? Some evil professor? He shook his head. You've been watching too many documentaries. This is real, Jared. He sighed, setting down his beer. And hear me out. You're stressed, not sleeping, and you found some old junk in a condemned building. Your brain is making connections that aren't there. You said it yourself. You feel déjà vu. That's just your mind playing tricks. I wanted to argue, but deep down, a tiny part of me wondered if he was right. Still, every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes. A circle of people, faces half in shadow, candles burning, a girl, dark hair, pale face, looking at me like she trusted me completely. Ivy. The name pulsed in my head. Ivy Clark. I didn't know her, but I knew her. That's when the paranoia really kicked in. It started small. A man on the subway, staring at me a second too long before looking away. A woman at the grocery store who looked so familiar I almost called out to her. But I didn't know why. Then, one night, I was walking home when I felt it. that prickling sensation on the back of your neck like someone's watching you. I turned, and sure enough, a man in a dark coat was standing half a block back, hands in his pockets, just watching. When he realized I'd noticed, he turned and walked the other way. I barely slept that night. The next day, Lena texted me. Found something else. Call me. When I called, her voice was hushed like she didn't want anyone overhearing. Marcus, I found records of Halden's research. Some of the names of his test subjects. My heart was pounding. And, Marcus, she said, your name is on the list. It started with a letter. Not like a birthday card or a bill. Not even one of those junk mail flyers that scream at you in neon colors. This one was simple. Thin, cream-colored paper, folded neatly, no envelope, just slid under my door like it had been waiting for me. I picked it up, thinking it was probably some prank. My neighbor has a weird sense of humor, but the handwriting, sharp, precise, not mine, made my stomach knot the second I saw it. You weren't supposed to remember. That's it. No signature, no return address, nothing else, just those 6 words scrawled in black ink. I sat on the floor of my apartment, the letter trembling in my hand. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Because, what does that even mean? Who? Me? Remember what? I kept thinking about the key, the storage unit, the notebooks, the tape, about the circle, Halden, Noah Drayton, Ivy Clark, about the flashes I've been having, fragments of a life I couldn't fully access. And now, someone or something was watching me. I should have called Jared. I probably should have just thrown the letter away and tried to convince myself it was a prank, but I didn't. The next day, walking to work, I saw him. The first time, I thought I was imagining it. A man standing across the street, trench coat, hands in his pockets, hat pulled low over his eyes. He was looking directly at me. Not just glancing, not just casually observing, staring. I looked away, tried to convince myself I was being paranoid, but when I glanced back a few minutes later, he was still there, a block down, still watching. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a coincidence. His name was Silas Ward. At least that's what I would learn later. I didn't know his name then, only that he radiated the kind of calm menace that makes your stomach tighten without a sound. He didn't approach me, didn't say a word, he just existed. Watching, waiting. I started noticing him everywhere. On the subway, in cafes, even once across the street from my apartment while I was taking out the trash. I tried telling myself it was my imagination, but then another letter came. Same paper, same handwriting. Stop looking back. Some doors are better left closed. I folded it carefully, put it in my jacket pocket, and forced myself to walk to work like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. That night, I dreamed of her, Mara Vexler. Her face was impossibly clear even though I didn't know her. Dark hair, pale skin, eyes that seemed too knowing, too alive. I could feel her presence, not just see it. In the dream, she was smiling at me, holding out her hand. But when I tried to reach for her, she dissolved into shadows, leaving only the echo of her voice. Remember, Marcus? I woke up drenched in sweat, clutching the key. The etchings on it seemed to glow faintly in the dark. That's when the flashes started, like my brain was trying to pull memories back in fragments, too fast to make sense of. I saw a house, old, wooden, in the middle of dense woods. I didn't know where it was, but it felt familiar. A porch, broken steps, windows darkened with grime, candles lined the floorboards, flickering, shadows danced across the walls, forming shapes I couldn't name. I heard chanting, low, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. The voices weren't words I could understand, but the tone, urgent, fearful, commanding, made my blood run cold. I reached for the door. That same door I'd seen before. The symbol etched on it was identical to the markings on the key. My hand trembled as I turned the brass key in the lock. And then, blur, darkness. When I woke, I was in my bed, my apartment, alone, the key clutched in my hand, my heart racing. These dreams, or whatever they were, started happening every night. Sometimes they were short fragments, sometimes they were long, fully immersive, like I'd been somewhere else entirely. I started keeping a notebook by my bed, jotting down everything, because I couldn't trust my memory to hold on to the details. Meanwhile, the watching didn't stop. I noticed familiar faces. Not friends, not coworkers. People who seemed to exist just on the edge of my recollection. A man in a grocery store who froze and smiled at me with recognition before hurrying away. A woman on the bus who turned and looked at me with a flicker of fear. And always Silas Ward. One evening, I followed him. Not like a stalker. I kept my distance, trying to figure out what he was doing, why he was following me. He led me through the city streets until we reached a park I didn't recognize, then disappeared into the shadows before I could confront him. I should have been terrified. I was. But there was also this strange pull, like I was supposed to be following, supposed to witness something. My instinct screamed at me to run, but my mind was being dragged back into that place I didn't remember. That night, Mara appeared again. She was standing at the edge of a forest, the same forest from my dreams. Candles lit a path to a door. The chanting was louder this time, and I could feel it in my bones. She reached out to me. I remembered a touch. Cold, urgent, desperate. Then the dream shifted. I was inside the house, surrounded by people I didn't recognize, but I knew them. Noah Drayton, Ivy Clark, others whose names I couldn't place, but whose faces made my chest tighten with recognition. They were all chanting, all holding hands, moving in a circle, and at the center, a small altar with the same symbol etched into the key. I woke again, gasping. The room was dark, the key cold against my palm. I didn't sleep much after that. I kept the blinds closed, the lights on, but I could still feel it. Watching, waiting. The way Silas's presence followed me like a shadow. The feeling that someone or something knew every move I made. I started carrying the key everywhere. Not for protection, not for luck. Because somehow, instinctively, I knew it was connected. Not just to the house, not just to Mara, not just to the circle, but to me. My past, my forgotten life. And the letters didn't stop. Some doors should never be opened. You were warned. Do not seek the light you lost. Every letter hit me like a punch to the chest. Every glance from a familiar but unknown face made my stomach twist. Every dream left me trembling. And yet, I couldn't stop. Because if I didn't keep going, I'd never know who I really was. Who Mara Vexler was. Who Silas Ward was. Or why my own life felt like a book I had started reading and then burned the first half of. Every night, the house, the chanting, the circle of people, the altar, it became clearer. The symbol on the key wasn't just decoration, it was a mark, a warning, a memory, and it was mine. The watchers were real, the letters were real, the dreams were real, and I was losing the fragile barrier between now and then, between what I remembered and what I had buried. All I could do was hold the key, stare at the shadows, and wait for the next piece to reveal itself. Because whatever was coming next, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't imagining it anymore, and I wasn't alone. I wish I could say that after all the letters, the watchers, the dreams, I was ready, that I was prepared for what I was about to find, but I wasn't. I wasn't ready for the woods, following the fragmented clues in my journals, guided only by instincts I didn't fully understand. I drove to the outskirts of town, where the streets dissolved into dirt paths, where the trees pressed close like they were guarding some secret. The kind of place you hear about in horror movies but never think actually exists. I parked my car and stepped out. The air smelled damp, rich with pine and decaying leaves. My flashlight cut a path through the darkness, illuminating the narrow trail that twisted deeper into the forest. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig made me jump. I was certain someone or something was watching. Maybe Silas, maybe someone else, or maybe it was just my mind, finally cracking under the weight of what I had discovered. After what felt like hours of walking, I stumbled into a clearing. There it was, the house, old, broken. Wooden beams sagging under the weight of years, windows shattered or darkened with grime. The front porch was barely standing, paint peeled in long, vertical strips, revealing layers of history beneath. And yet, there was something familiar about it. A pang of recognition hit me like a hammer. I had seen this house before, not in photographs, not in memory, but somewhere deep in my subconscious, somewhere buried. I approached cautiously. The front door was locked. Key didn't fit. Figures in my mind from the journals whispered, the basement. I walked around the side of the house, finding a trapdoor almost hidden by overgrown weeds. The brass key slid in perfectly. I almost dropped it in shock. The lock turned with a soft click. I lifted the door and a chill gust of air hit my face. Darkness yawned beneath me, and I descended the creaking wooden steps, each one groaning under my weight. At the bottom, the flashlight revealed a room that smelled of damp earth and old incense. Candles, long burned down to stubs, lined the walls. There were strange symbols painted or etched into the wood, symbols that matched the ones on my key. And then I saw it. A table in the center of the room, laid out with objects I didn't understand but recognized instinctively. Ceremonial daggers, small carved statues, crystal orbs, pieces of cloth marked with symbols. Everything seemed meticulously arranged, as if waiting for someone to return. I stepped closer and froze. On the far wall, pinned in a neat grid, were photographs. My hand shook as I approached, and there I was. In every photo, I was surrounded by people I vaguely remembered from dreams and journals. Mara Vexler, smiling at me in one, her hand on my shoulder. Noah Drayton, eyes serious and calculating. Others whose names I didn't know, but whose presence made my stomach churn. Rituals, gatherings, meetings, all captured in frozen time. And in every single one, I was there. It was me, but not the me I remembered. I touched the pictures, fingers trembling. Then I noticed the second tape recorder, perched on a small shelf. A label read, Phase 2. My heart raced. I hesitated only a second before pressing play. Static first, then my voice again. Older, heavier, familiar in a way that twisted my gut. Phase 2 begins now. Marcus, if you're listening, it means a first step succeeded. The memory erasure system is operational, but we need more control. Halden will guide you. You know what to do. You know the circle. You know the rules. Remember, the gaps are necessary. The forgetting is necessary. It is for the greater good. I felt my stomach drop. I pressed pause. I wasn't just a victim. I was involved. I rewound, pressed play again. You have helped design the system. Your own mind, Marcus, is part of the experiment. If anyone outside the circle were to remember, it would jeopardize everything. Noah and Ivy trust you implicitly. Mara is the key to keeping the process stable. Your involvement is both critical and dangerous. You must not fail. The words hit me like a freight train. I sank to the floor, leaning against the wall, trying to make sense of it. I had written those journals, participated in those rituals, and yet I had erased all memory of it. But why? Why would I do that to myself? A fragment returned. A flash of a ritual in this very basement. Candles flickering, shadows stretching across the walls, chanting that rose and fell like a wave. I remember standing there, my hand on the altar, repeating words I didn't understand fully at the time. Professor Halden's voice instructing me, guiding me. I was not a passive participant. I had helped him. I felt bile rise in my throat. The tape continued. The circle is no longer about simple memory experiments. We are pioneers, Marcus. You know this. Your work will shape reality itself, but it must remain hidden. They will come for us if they know the truth. That is why you were made to forget. That is why you must recover carefully, one step at a time. You must remember without risking the system's stability. The tape clicked off. I sat in silence, breathing heavily, trying to process it. I had been a creator of my own amnesia. I had been part of something far bigger, far darker than I could have imagined. And yet, somewhere in the corner of my mind, I knew the truth. Halden had trusted me. I had trusted Halden. I had made choices, ritual after ritual, entry after entry in the journals, to ensure that forgetting would protect something or someone. But now, all those decisions had been erased, and I was back. Back with the key, back with the memories, only fragments, half-baked and terrifying. I started digging through the rest of the basement. More notebooks, more photographs, some of them damaged, others pristine. Symbols scrawled in margins, notes detailing timing, procedures, observations, everything meticulously cataloged. I recognized my own handwriting even when my conscious mind screamed that I had no memory of writing it. And then, in a corner, I found Mara's notebook. Her handwriting, precise and elegant, detailed her own perspective on the rituals, the circle, and the system. She wrote about trust, danger, and loyalty. Her words made my heart ache because I realized how much I had trusted her, how much she had trusted me. And now I didn't remember her. I felt an almost unbearable weight in my chest. I was supposed to forget, and I had. But the past, the real past, had been waiting for me to return. I realized then that phase 2 wasn't just about memory erasure experiments. It was about rebuilding what had been broken, reclaiming the pieces I had buried, understanding what I had created and what I had destroyed. The Watchers, the letters, Silas Ward, the dreams of Mara, none of it was coincidence. It was a system responding, reacting, testing me, pulling me back to the truth. I sank to the floor, the key in my hand, surrounded by the remnants of my own life I didn't remember living. I didn't know what phase 3 would entail, or if there even was a phase 3, but one thing was clear. The house, the basement, the circle, Halden, Mara, Noah, Ivy, everything was connected, and I was at the center. For the first time since I found that jacket, I felt the weight of responsibility, not as a victim, but as a creator. I wasn't just remembering my past, I was confronting it, and there was no turning back. Because the key wasn't just a key to a door, it was a key to me. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know how soon. Ever since I'd discovered the house, the basement, the photographs, and the phase 2 tape, I had felt a constant, oppressive weight pressing down on me. The Watchers, the letters, the dreams, Mara, Silas, every step I took, every shadow I passed, I felt eyes on me. And finally, the confrontation. It started on a rainy evening. I was sitting in my apartment, sifting through Mara's notebook, trying to make sense of the rituals, the symbols, the fragments of instructions I had written and then erased from my memory. The rain pattered against the window like some morbid drumline, and the city lights reflected off the wet streets outside. There was a knock at the door. Not a casual knock, purposeful, slow, deliberate. I froze. My heart jumped into my throat. The key burned in my pocket, like it knew something was about to happen. I opened the door. 2 figures stood in the hallway, one calm, composed, his posture unnervingly precise. The other, colder, harder. A shadow of menace wrapped around him like a cloak. Dr. Adrian Cross, Silas Ward. Marcus, Cross said, his voice smooth, almost hypnotic. I was hoping we'd meet under less stressful circumstances. I swallowed, trying to steady my voice. I don't know what you want from me. Cross tilted his head slightly, studying me. You know exactly what we want. You've always known. It's why you've returned. You can't stay away, can you? Silas Ward didn't speak at first. He just stepped closer, his eyes cold, sharp, and unyielding. He made sure I understood the weight behind his presence. This was a man who could break someone with a single word, a single glance. You've been digging where you shouldn't, he said finally, and you need to stop, or the consequences. Marcus, I don't think you'd survive them. I clenched my fists, staring back at him. I'm not stopping. I need to know why I erased myself. I need to understand what I did and why. Cross smiled, almost indulgently, but there was no warmth in it. You already know, Marcus. Every detail is cataloged, every choice, every decision you've made, you left by choice. You erased yourself to escape guilt, to protect yourself from what you did. I shook my head. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember the guilt. I want to understand it now. Mara Vexler stepped out from the shadows. I hadn't noticed her enter. She was calm, poised, and terrifyingly familiar. The first time I saw her face, I felt my chest tighten, like a memory I couldn't reach but knew existed. You chose this, she said softly. You left us, Marcus. You erased yourself because you couldn't bear what we were doing. What you were doing. You wanted to run from it. From yourself. Her words cut deeper than Silas's threat, deeper than Cross's persuasion. She was right. I had left. I had fled, but I didn't remember why. Not consciously. It was all buried. You don't understand, I said, voice shaking but firm. I need to remember. I need to know the truth. I can't just stop. Cross's smile faded, replaced with a cool, almost surgical focus. The truth is dangerous, Marcus. The memories you're digging for, They aren't just uncomfortable, they're destabilizing. You've already begun to feel the bleed through, the fragments you've experienced. Push too far and you risk your mind fracturing again, permanently. Silas stepped closer. And I assure you, Marcus, we won't let you suffer in ignorance without warning you. Stop or you'll pay the price. I looked at Mara. Her eyes, so familiar, implored me to back down. But the flicker of something, loyalty, curiosity, burned in me. I couldn't. I don't care, I said, gripping the key in my pocket. I need to know why I erased myself. I need to know everything. I can't live half a life, half a memory, half a truth. Cross tilted his head, studying me. You're stubborn. That's both impressive and dangerous. You've always had this trait. It's why you were chosen to help develop the system in the first place. But now, Marcus, it's a threat to you. Silas leaned in, his voice low, measured, like a blade sliding across glass. Do you remember the last time you pushed too far? I swallowed hard. My mind raced. Memories flickered, dark, fragmented. The chanting in the woods, the basement, the rituals, the altar, faces of the circle, the symbol on the key. I remember fragments, I admitted. Enough to know I can't stop now. Mara stepped closer. You erased yourself because you were afraid of the guilt, of what you'd done, of what Halden made you do. You weren't innocent, Marcus. You helped him. You helped create the memory erasure system. And now you're trying to run from the consequences again. I'm not running, I said firmly. I need to face it. All of it. I need to remember fully. Cross's eyes narrowed slightly. You were never supposed to confront us like this. You were supposed to rebuild carefully, step by step. The more you force the memories back, the more unstable the system becomes. You risk everything. Your mind, Mara's stability, the circle itself. Silas's gaze was hard. We're not here to punish you yet. But know this, the system is delicate. Stop or the mind fracture you suffered before will return. Permanently. And we won't intervene. We can't. That's the risk you accepted the moment you returned. I gritted my teeth. My fingers curled around the key so tightly it dug into my palm. I accept it. I can't stop now. Not when I'm this close. Not when the truth is right here. I erased myself once. I won't do it again out of fear. Mara's face softened slightly, though her eyes remained sharp. Marcus, I hope you know what you're doing. You have no idea how far this goes, how deep the guilt runs, how much you've already affected. I need to know, I said, voice trembling with determination. I need to remember everything. I can handle it. I have to. Cross leaned back, studying me. Very well, then you will have the answers you seek. But understand this. Once you move forward, there is no going back, no erasing yourself again, no safety net. You will confront everything you've done, everything you've forgotten, and everything you were meant to forget. Silas gave me a final look, cold, calculating, warning. Do not underestimate what's waiting for you, Marcus. Not everything buried is meant to be unearthed. The mind can only withstand so much. I nodded. Mara placed a hand lightly on my shoulder. Then follow carefully, step by step. Remember what I taught you. Trust yourself, Marcus, but also know that the world we were part of is nothing like you remember. And yet, it is all still real. I swallowed hard. My heart hammered in my chest, but something, fear, adrenaline, determination, or maybe all three pushed me forward. I had a choice. Retreat, let them scare me into silence, and live with half a life and half a memory. Or press forward into the darkness of my own past. I chose the latter, because if I didn't, I'd never truly know myself. And I couldn't live another day as a man who didn't even remember who he was. The key burned in my pocket. The circle had shown their hand. Their warnings had been clear. Their threats had been issued. And yet, for the first time, I felt something I hadn't in years. Control. Not over them, not over the system, over myself. I was going to uncover the full truth no matter how dangerous, no matter how painful, and I would do it on my terms. Because Marcus Hale doesn't run from the past, he confronts it. I didn't want to find the last journals. I told myself that over and over as I carried the dusty boxes down the narrow hall of the house, flashlight trembling in my hand. But deep down, I knew it was inevitable. Every scrap of paper, every notebook, every tape recording had been leading me here, leading me to the truth. And the truth was worse than I could have imagined. I settled in the basement, the smell of damp wood and candle wax heavy in the air. My hands shook as I opened the first of the final journals. The handwriting was mine, or at least it looked like mine, but the words were almost alien, cold, calculated. Page after page, detailed experiments I couldn't consciously remember participating in, observations, measurements, protocols, all meticulously recorded. And then I saw it. Entries with a different tone. Directives, instructions, leadership. I had been a leader, not a passive participant, not a victim, a leader. Alongside Noah Drayton and Mara Vexler, I had orchestrated the Circle's experiments, manipulating memory. Not just collecting data, not just observing, altering the minds of real people. I felt bile rise in my throat, my stomach twisted. The key in my pocket burned against my skin. I turned the page, and there she was, Ivy Clark. A photograph slipped between the pages, yellowed and frayed. Ivy, young, bright-eyed, smiling at me with trust I didn't remember earning. And the entry below made my hands freeze. Experiment 27, subject, Clark. Ivy. Objective, memory integration test. Procedure successful until 1452. Severe neurological distress observed. Phase terminated. Subject unstable. Recommend temporary memory suppression. Marcus Hale to oversee containment. I couldn't breathe. Ivy Clark. She was a victim, not collateral damage, not a random participant, someone I cared for, and we had failed her. Terribly. The journal continued, detailing what went wrong. The experiment had been designed to manipulate and integrate specific memories, to observe how memories could be selectively erased or rewritten. But something had gone horribly wrong. Ivy had experienced deep neurological trauma, painful, irreversible, and my response had been self-erasure. I had erased myself out of grief, out of guilt, out of the realization that I couldn't live with what I had done. The weight of it pressed down on me like a physical force. Every memory fragment, every dream, every warning letter, it all made sense now. The circle, Mara, Noah, Silas Ward, they hadn't been trying to protect me, not entirely. They had been managing the fallout of what I had started, the chaos I had unleashed, the sins I had buried in my own mind. I flipped through more pages, my hands trembling uncontrollably. I had documented protocols for other subjects, notes about controlling memory, guiding recollection, even erasing guilt. I had written notes about myself, about my role, my failings, my desire to remove myself from the equation entirely. Every ritual, every circle gathering, every altar, it had been part of a system I designed, a system I had trusted to function without fail, and it hadn't. I felt rage bubble up first, at Halden, at the circle, at myself, then grief, then shame, then the crushing realization that Ivy Clark's life had been irrevocably altered because of me, because of us. And yet, buried beneath all that, I also felt clarity. I had returned, not just to remember, not just to confront my past, but to understand the magnitude of my actions, to face the consequences I had spent years running from. I flipped to another entry. Personal reflection. Erasure is a necessary evil. Without it, the guilt is unbearable. Without it, the circle cannot continue its work. Without it, I cannot live with myself. I collapsed against the wall. My hands covered my face. I had chosen this. I had orchestrated this. I had fled from myself. The next journal contained correspondence between me, Mara, and Noah. Notes about phase 2, about contingency plans, about how to handle unstable subjects like Ivy. The tone was clinical, detached, yet underneath it, I could sense humanity I had lost, or thought I had lost. Mara's handwriting stood out occasionally, comments in the margins, observations about my state, reminders to remain vigilant, notes about Ivy's vulnerability. Even now, her presence in these pages was grounding, almost like a tether to a part of myself I thought I had erased completely. And then I found a page marked personal accountability. It was my handwriting, but the words shook me. I am responsible. The failures, the harm, the consequences, they are mine. I cannot erase them again. I cannot hide from what I have done. To do so would be cowardice of the highest order. The circle must be guided with care. My mind may falter, but my actions must remain deliberate. Marcus Hale cannot run. I read it over and over. Each repetition burned into me like fire. I realized then that my journey back into memory, into the past I had buried, was not just about reclaiming knowledge, it was about reclaiming responsibility. Ivy Clark. Her face haunted me in every fragment of recollection. Every memory I regained of her fear, her trust, her innocence. It was a weight I could no longer ignore. And the circle. They had covered it up. All of it. Halden, Noah, Mara. They had ensured that the world outside would never know. That Ivy's suffering, my erasure, the experiments, everything would remain hidden. Controlled, quiet, safe. But now I knew. And knowing carried its own burden. I put the journals down and sank to the floor, staring at the ceiling. The key heavy in my pocket. I had returned not to undo what I had done, not to erase again, not to run. I had returned to confront the magnitude of my actions, to finally face myself. And Ivy Clark, she would not be a faceless victim in a notebook. I would carry her memory with me, fully. Every detail I could recover, every trace of what I had caused. Because erasure had its price, and I had paid it. Now, it was time to pay attention, to remember, to act. I didn't know exactly how I would face Halden, the circle, or the consequences of my actions. I didn't know if I could fix the past, if I could restore Ivy, if I could atone. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I could not run. Not again. I had erased myself once to escape guilt. I would not do it again. I was Marcus Hale, leader, creator, witness, survivor. And I would confront the truth no matter how unbearable. Because the truth was all I had left. The house felt different now. Not in the way that the walls shifted or the shadows twisted differently with the flashlight beam. No. The difference was in me. I had uncovered the past, the full scope of it. I had read every journal, heard every tape, seen every photograph, remembered every ritual, every face, every voice, every action I had tried to erase. All of it was back. And with that came a choice I knew I couldn't avoid. The circle was still out there. Halden's system still pulsed beneath the surface of memory, hidden, waiting. Noah, Mara, Silas, Cross. They all had stakes, intentions, consequences I didn't fully understand. I could expose everything, blow it open to the world. Reddit, news, authorities, someone, anyone could know. But I also knew the cost. My mind, my sanity. The very people I had once trusted, once loved, could be hurt irreparably. I sat at my desk in the apartment, the key resting in front of me like a beacon. Outside, the rain whispered against the window. I opened my laptop, the glow of the screen harsh in the dim room. The Reddit page waited. The cursor blinked, impatient. I had typed and erased a dozen drafts. Every word felt inadequate, every sentence either too revealing or too cautious. Jared came over that evening, shaking his head. Marcus, seriously, just stop. You've already gone too far. You're digging into things that were buried for a reason. You're not ready for what comes next. Trust me, man. Some doors shouldn't be open. I looked at him, feeling the warmth of friendship, the anchor of normalcy. Jared, I can't stop. Not now, not when the pieces are finally in front of me. I have to see it through. He sighed, running a hand over his face. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. You go down this path and there's no coming back, literally. Later that night, Lena came over. Her presence was different, urgent, insisting. Marcus, listen to me. You started this. You know what the circle is? What Halden did? You can't just ignore it. Finish what you started. You owe it to yourself and to the people who were affected. Expose it. Make it right. Her words cut deep, but not in the same way as Mara's had. Mara arrived after that. Standing in the doorway, arms crossed, voice quiet but firm. Marcus, please. Let it go. You've seen enough. Remembering everything doesn't mean you have to act. Some truths are dangerous. Some pasts are better left buried. Don't destroy yourself or anyone else chasing them. 3 voices, 3 perspectives, 3 stakes, and 1 decision that would define everything. I stared at the key, my journals, the photographs, the tapes, Ivy Clark. Every mistake, every act of hubris, every memory I had once tried to erase, it all pressed down on me, heavier than I had ever felt. And then I thought about the Reddit post itself. The reason I was typing here, narrating this account, this story, a record, an outlet, an acknowledgement. Because even if I didn't share everything, even if I didn't expose Halden or the circle, I could at least record my journey. The truth as much as I remembered it. The fragments, the guilt, the responsibility. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was the way to reconcile the past without destroying the present. I began to type, slowly, deliberately, feeling every word burn into the digital page. I found a key in my old jacket, to a place I didn't remember. It led me to a house, a basement, a past I had erased. I discovered the journals, the photographs, the recordings, every ritual, every experiment, every face I once knew. I remembered who I was. I remembered what I had done. I was part of something terrible. I was a leader. I failed people I cared for. I erased myself to survive the guilt, and now I remember it all. I paused, hands hovering over the keyboard. I thought about Ivy, about Mara, about Noah, Halden, the circle. I thought about Jared and Lena, about the life I had after erasure, the life I had built while the past waited for me to return. I could expose it. I could tell the world. I could bring down the circle, reveal the experiment, let everyone know the consequences of our actions. But doing that, it might destroy me. It might destroy those who survived it. It might undo the system I helped build, and perhaps some part of it needs to remain hidden to prevent further harm. My fingers trembled as I continued, so I made a choice. I won't undo the erasure of the world around us. I won't dismantle the circle entirely. I will not expose every detail, but I have reclaimed my memories. I will remember everything. I will carry the weight of what I've done. I will not run again. I will not forget again. And I will live with the knowledge of what I am responsible for. I stared at the screen. My heart raced. My hands shook. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't absolution. But it was a record, a testament, a statement to anyone reading that the past, no matter how deeply buried, cannot erase responsibility. Finally, I typed the closing line, the line that would echo in my mind long after I posted it. I don't know if I made the right choice, but at least now I remember who I really am. I hesitated. My finger hovered over the post button, and then I clicked. The post went live. The window glowed in the dark room. Rain continued to patter outside. Jared, Lena, and Mara watched silently, each understanding in their own way the gravity of what I had done, the choice I had made. Ivy Clark's face lingered in my mind. The memories of her suffering, her trust, her innocence, they would stay with me, not as a burden, but as a reminder. And maybe in the future I could make amends. Maybe I could do something right. But for now, I was Marcus Hale, no longer erased, no longer hiding, no longer running. I had remembered, and that in itself felt like enough. The key sat on my desk, heavy, etched with strange symbols, a reminder that some doors, once opened, could never be closed. I reached for it, held it, felt the weight, the responsibility, the past. And for the first time in years, I felt steady, because I knew who I was. I had faced the circle, I had faced myself, and I had chosen, not perfectly, not safely, but deliberately. And in this dark, quiet apartment, with the rain against the windows and the glow of the laptop reflecting in my eyes, I understood something terrifying and liberating all at once. Memory is power, responsibility is heavier, and truth, no matter how dangerous, is unavoidable. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if I did the right thing, but I do know one thing. I remember. and that is enough. So, this story is incredibly compelling and immersive. The narrative skillfully blends psychological thriller elements with a mysterious, almost supernatural intrigue, keeping the audience hooked from the discovery of the key to Marcus's ultimate confrontation with his own erased past. The pacing across all 8 chapters is strong. Each chapter escalates tension while providing revelations that feel earned rather than forced. The way the story explores memory, guilt, and responsibility adds deep emotional weight, especially with Marcus's gradual uncovering of his leadership role in the Circle and the tragic consequences for Ivy Clark. The characters are distinct and believable, with Jared and Lena providing grounded perspectives while Mara, Silas, and Cross maintain an unsettling, enigmatic presence that heightens suspense. Marcus's internal conflict, his fear, curiosity, and eventual determination is portrayed convincingly, making readers empathize with his struggle even as his past actions are morally complex. One suggestion would be to occasionally include subtle sensory details or small flashbacks earlier in the story to foreshadow Ivy's fate or the Circle's darker side, which could make the climax even more impactful. Additionally, tightening minor repetitive passages might enhance the narrative flow without losing the immersive, suspenseful tone. Overall, it's a gripping, well-crafted story that balances mystery, horror, and emotional depth beautifully. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. We have so many more amazing stories coming your way, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Our goal is to reach 100K subscribers by the end of this year, and we'd love for you to be part of this journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next